Welcome back to the Behind the Drive series. My name is Matt. Thank you guys for listening. Behind the Drive is where we interview local people just like you and me to share their story on how they make a positive impact and hold themselves accountable to do great things. Today I have the pleasure of talking to a good friend of mine named Mike Green, who is now based in Los Angeles, California. He is a professional singer and songwriter, and you can find his newest album, Restart, at MikeGreenMusic.com. Mike, thanks for being on the show today, man.
Thanks, man. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. How's the quarantine life out there in LA?
I'm going through my own fatigue, but overall, existing and healthy and keeping my own peace of mind and trying to keep my home as my oasis.
So, Mike, let's hop right in. You became a musician at a very early age, correct?
Yeah. I was drawn to it as a very early age, but I played my very first show at Toad's Place in New Haven when I was 8 years old.
8 years old. Now, what gauged your interest in becoming a musician at such an early age?
I don't know if it was like a becoming as much as it was like I was just innately drawn to it. I was told, not necessarily that I the greatest memory, but I was told when I was a kid, like 3 years old, I kind of, what's the word? I kind of like suckered my mom into purchasing a gift for me if I acted really good because I was being a brat somewhere. And she was like, listen, if you just chill out, we'll go to the toy store and you can get whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, that's cool. I'll work with that deal. And then so we went to the toy store. I was on my best behavior. And she's like, you can grab whatever. And I grabbed this like $2 toy guitar. She's like, really? That's what you want? And I was like, yeah, this was it. And I go home and after some time with playing with it, she realizes like, oh shit, this guy, he's got some rhythm. Like this is something my two older sisters never had. They were kind of tone deaf.
Yeah.
We're always fighting my mom on that. So I think like right around 3.5, I just had this instinct. It was just instinctual, and I would always play for my family. I had to be on the coffee table or on the kitchen counter, so I had my stage.
Yeah,
and from there, it's kind of like my mom got me some lessons, and no one would take me. I was very young; like my hands didn't even reach around a guitar, or anything. And she eventually got this I upgraded to like a nicer acoustic that she got, and we found a teacher in Brantford, Nicky Naskow, who he's almost like my surrogate father because I was just spending so much time with him. He like started off babysitting me at first. We were just playing like tic-tac-toe because when I look at music on a paper, I kind of see fly shit. So he was. I'm sorry. Can you swear?
Of course you can swear on here, man.
But yeah, I was street smart first, And
That's awesome.
As a young kid, I just had it. I always loved music. I was always drawn to it. I was always obsessed as a kid with like Tom Petty, Buddy Holly, Beatles.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got older where I started to span out into other styles. And then when I went to Berklee for college, I started learning about the history of all of it, and it definitely repositioned my thought system.
Yeah, for sure, man. So let's talk about Berklee for a second because that's one of the biggest schools for music, and you talk about so many amazing musicians and songwriters that came out of that school. What was that experience like for you at the Berklee College of Music?
That was very surreal. It was really interesting to be surrounded by so many people with aspirations and desires, much like myself. And it'd be weird to be, I'd be in like my dorm room first semester, and someone would just like barge in and be like, "Check out this riff," and I'm like, "Whoa, that was awesome! That was really cool, man." And I met a lot of great people, and who I'm still friends with to this day.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. I there's two ways to look at it, and coming from a more like street background in regards to performing before educating myself in the theory or like diving deep. I mean, I always try to go out and support people's projects and people's shows, and that's kind of where I learned the most. As much as I learned in the classroom, I was definitely, trying to be a social butterfly and meet as many people as I can. And it's more than just the books you buy and the lectures you hear. It's like you got to be a part of the community. Yeah, so that opened my doors to a very broad community, a lot of people who I keep in touch with today. And yeah, man, it's unforgettable.
Now, Mike, do you have any friends from Berklee that are out in LA still trying to do their thing close by to you?
Oh, yeah. I'm living with one of my friends. He's my roommate and engineer and mixing guy on Restart, Brian Moore.
Awesome.
And yeah, there's a whole Berklee chapter out here. So most of my friends, if not all my friends, are musical or from school or people I've met through that butterfly effect of being in touch with them.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. So you started playing at 8 years old, playing at Toad's Place at a young age. You decide, I want to go to school for music. Then you graduate. So the whole process from high school to college to now, what compelled you to say, you know what, I think I want to go into the field of music full-time on my career journey?
Well, I knew it's a long road, and I was willing to stick it out. Sometimes I think I'm ridiculous for doing it, but man, there's just something I can't deny. I guess I'm stubborn in that sense, where it's like I won't stop until I see a form of success, or what I define as success, happen. And it's interesting. I mean, I was even in high school, I was in a band. We were playing clubs and selling out some venues, and I was writing a lot for that project and that involvement, which led me to college. There's with every song you write, with everything you do, you grow a little bit. Yeah. There's really no like lose-ment. I mean, as much as you think failure, success, lose, win, it's either win or learn. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only way I'd know that I failed is if I quit.
Exactly.
So I'm just not trying to not quit. I'm trying to not quit.
Gotcha. Yeah. Hey, that's important, man. And I've known you since. I remember when I was a musician. I mean, a while ago, we played a show together at Toad's Place. It was your last show with your high school band, and then that kind of jump started your journey after that. And I've been following you ever since. And to be honest, dude, when I had my band in high school, you guys were one of our biggest inspirations, which is kind of crazy to think because you guys were only a few years older than us, but you were so much more talented and just better. And like any chance that we can to go and see you guys, I remember we would go and support you guys. And
I remember, man. It's a really good time. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure, man. So it's still fun for me to follow your journey because you're one of the few people that I know is still out there, like really going after it and just continuing to put out great products and great songs. So I appreciate you taking the time, brother.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. I just you got to keep going, man. I have a lot of stuff in my head that I've been trying to get out for a long time. Like I sit with a lot of ideas for a long time. I kind of let them ruminate and let them simmer, and it takes time. I think that's an element that a lot of people forget in a fast food culture, in like a spoon-fed culture. It's a bit oversaturated now, and people want speed and efficiency over quality. Again, that's subjective. Yeah. The high fidelity is there with all the technology and stuff, but the soul, there's some soul, there's something missing. There's an elemental part of art that is missing, and I think a lot of things now sound a bit homogenized because of it.
Agree. Completely agree, Mike. So, hey, listen, prior to quarantine, I want you to answer this question. Pretend like the quarantine didn't even happen. What would you say is your biggest challenge as far as in entertainment, like performing live or booking shows, things like that?
Well, that's a two-part question. So the struggles with performing live.
For you specifically, like, what's your biggest challenge when it comes to, performing live?
Performing live, I would say it's just taking it easy. You got a lot of adrenaline coursing through your veins, and sometimes the way I'd like to be heard, when I hear back my performances, I'm like, oh man, you're kind of over ecstatic, or there's like I suppose there's an art to the delivery. But I've been performing for a long time, so there was even a moment where I wasn't singing so articulate, and now my voice is it's grown a lot.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more, like, my words are a bit more distinguishable. So I would say no one in the back of the room should have to struggle to hear what you're saying. And so it's really important that, you have a microphone, so obviously they should be able to hear you. But as far as being articulate, and while you're singing, every word shouldn't go unnoticed. And I would say connecting with people, like watching your songs land, and kind of keeping those key components of delivering while you're performing a song. So you could be performing, right? I could be thinking, like, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? Maybe I'll do the eggs. Oh no, the eggs. I don't have any more eggs. Shit. I need to cook the turkey. And like, in the meantime, I'm like, la, 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 la,
Yeah.
And so sometimes you get lost in your head. And I guess you're afforded that privilege when, through the repetition.
Yeah.
Of it all, it's like it's another time you're playing the song, so it's kind of ingrained in your mind. But it's really important to then take your way from that, or take your way from the daydreaming, and be focused on your surroundings, be focused on the people in the room who are there to see you. And, it's like I'd be nothing without the people in the room. Yeah,
of course. Completely agree.
So as far as what was the second half of that? It was
your biggest
performing live,
and then as a musician in general, because you're also a phenomenal guitar player, not just a phenomenal singer. So what about in the elements when it comes to actually playing the instrument? I just feel like you have so much to think about when you're a solo musician, and that there has to be some challenges that, factor into your live performance.
Yeah, there's some like physical challenges in the sense that, like, when I was a kid, I broke my wrist and my left wrist that's on my neck.
Yeah.
Of the guitar, and so when my wrist wouldn't heal, and they had to re-break it in the hospital, and after the surgery, and they like stuck pins in my wrist, and man, it was painful. They took it out with like just pliers, and they rubbed Novocaine on my wrist, and then they removed the pins in my bone with pliers. It was like the biggest pain of my life.
Wow.
But ever since then, my ulna isn't fully connected to my wrist.
No kidding.
I know that sounds weird. It's like millimeters distance off. So I've had I have to take really good care of my wrist. I have low action on my guitar. I have light gauge strings on my guitar.
Gotcha.
Just because I solo, and it takes a lot of effort to bend an acoustic string, which is a thicker wound string.
Yeah, of course.
Than you would on electric. So I think taking care of my wrist, and sometimes in the heat of the moment, if I go from strumming to soloing, my left hand can sometimes feel tense and lock up.
Yeah.
So I think one struggle of performing live a guitar is kind of almost meditating while you're in the act of performing, to say, like, relax, like, calm down, relax your hand, because you're tense enough, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing, playing the guitar. The other thing is, because I mostly play acoustic, a lot of pedals aren't designed to carry that acoustic resonance without degrading it somehow or diminishing the quality of the audio. So I try to be very selective with what pedals I'm using, if any. I'm a very one knob dude, just the power and the volume knob. It's like if you can't do something without the effects, it's like, why do you have the effects there?
Yeah.
The booking, though, I know you said booking.
Yeah.
Booking's tough because a lot of people without, the whole industry is a back scratching thing. And if someone thinks that you can't successfully scratch their back, or they're like, oh man, you don't got nails, I don't want you scratching my back. Or I don't know, whatever. Terrible analogy. But if they feel that what you could bring to the table doesn't suffice, it's hard for them to respond to you at all. And we live in a very gatekeeped society, like I suppose nowadays in every form, in every form all the time. But the music industry is very tough to navigate through. It's really right place, right time.
For sure.
Which is another reason why I've located myself geographically in an area that's like
it's like a music hub almost. Like live music in LA is huge.
Yeah, and it's eclectic. Yeah. That's one thing I love is like you can go see a jazz band, a Cuban band, you can go see a blues band, singer-songwriters. I mean, I've seen people with backup dancers and tracks up on stage.
No kidding.
It's like, wow, it's a cool.
So, Mike, now when it comes to booking shows, do you do this on your own, or do you have any type of management, booking agent, any representation?
No, I do it all on my own.
Do you?
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing of climbing the ladder and being with people you trust. I've been in certain scenarios where I was kind of screwed.
Yeah.
And when I realized, you know what? I'm very good at being with people and letting them open up and chilling with them. And I'm a people dude. And so I was like, I could do this myself. I could talk to people. I could send emails. It's excruciating and very arduous.
Yeah.
You send sometimes hundreds and hundreds of emails to get one back.
Yeah.
So I try not to let that get to me.
Yeah, you can't because, there's only so many people that are opening these emails, I feel like. And like you said, as long as you get one reply, I feel like that's one more opportunity for you to get out there. And then the more that you get yourself out there, the more people see you, the more that the buzz starts to generate for you,
And you got to keep yourself like mentally sound through all of it. Like, sometimes the struggle is so very real when you're pursuing this that you forget to celebrate the progresses you've made.
Of course, those small victories.
And I think and no matter how slow or how small that progress was, like I always think to myself on days where I'm like, why? I always think to myself, man, I've done a lot since leaving my home as a kid.
For sure.
And I think on days that seem counterproductive, I just try to remind myself of that.
Yeah, that's important, man. I completely agree. So, Mike, being a solo musician, we talked a little bit about the booking process. Do you find it hard to piece together a band for consistency? For example, like, I can only imagine that you have to find the right people to play on your album because that's you showcasing, like, your babies, man. Your songs are your babies, and you want the right people to do the right thing for those songs. And then how does that generate to the live performance if you wanted to do a full band show?
Yeah, sometimes you just get dealt some cards and you play with those cards. I had a band in college that I loved. It was a 7-piece band, keys, drums, auxiliary guitar, horns. And that was the ideal for me. Like, that's what I wanted to help me express the art. And all of the musicians I had were stellar musicians who blew me out of the water, really. Like, I mean, I felt like I was the weakest link, although it was my songs, which finding that trust and that chemistry, it's a bit tough because I had a band at one point when I was living here before I moved to France. And then I moved to France for 5 years where I was a part of someone else's project, so I didn't have a band. And then when I moved back, a lot of those members that I had in my band kind of dispersed and left LA or moved around. So when I came back, I didn't have that team to just assemble right away.
Gotcha.
So last year I was in the process of putting people together, and then all this stuff happened. So until this is over, it's kind of hard to get together in a room with people. But this is why I loop. And I think there's a dichotomy to the thought about it, about what works and what people want. And as much as I'd like the full picture to be grasped and treat everyone as if they didn't have an imagination and just say, like, here are all my ideas, you can hear them.
Yeah.
I think there's something genuine about breaking shit down to just you and a guitar, where there's this, like, it's there's like a polarity for you, but I don't think the songs have been sacrificed. I think it's just a different way of performing them. And it still suffices, and a part of me is just like, man, I'm really tired of playing with myself. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I'm just playing with myself on stage. It sounds terrible, but that's what sometimes it feels like that. I'm like, man, I'd love someone to the right of me, even if it was just keeping a beat on a box or something to pay attention to. But yeah, it's tough. I think if the song, I think it's something to say about the songwriting too. If the song works with just you and an instrument, then it'll work with a band. And you can dress things up as much as you want, but I think breaking it down kind of shows this a more of a vulnerability and more of you. Yeah. You know, so it's important to
for sure, brother. Now, Mike, I know you mentioned that you went to France for 4 years. How did that opportunity come to you to kind of drop everything that you had going on and go to this opportunity in France?
Well, that opportunity came from Berklee, essentially.
Oh, no kidding.
My relationships I had there. It was not Berklee as an institution, but the people I'd met there. My good friend, Evan Anderson, who was in my songwriting class. Yeah. He and Dan Puccio, who also went to Berklee, they formed a band, like a traveling band. Yeah. It kind of became a staycation. They went to France and they stayed there and they started performing for different people and then it worked out and they had a few versions of the band before they had called me up. They had called me up once before when I had just moved to Santa Monica and I was like, you know what? No, not interested. I'm just trying to do something. But life here, it's like as it went on, you know, I don't know. Nothing really forced me to take it. It was just like, well, when does this opportunity come, and what have I got to lose? Yeah, you know. So you either win or you learn, and it was a huge learning experience. Some of it's a little tough because I didn't go to school for songwriting to be singing other people's songs my entire life. As much as I love playing covers and songs that mean something to me, and I love making people happy on days that matter to them. Yeah. I mean, there's no better feeling than watching your performance land and see someone smile and you're just thinking like, man, they're digging this. This is awesome. Yeah. And yeah, it's a very two-way street in that regard. Gotcha. Yeah.
So after that project in France finished up, you came back over towards LA. Now you pretty much could go anywhere that you want as a musician when you think about it. What made you pick LA specifically?
I think it is mostly the connections that I made prior to leaving for France. Okay. I had a little bit more of a stable ground here. Yep. And it was just a little bit more of a comfort zone. Every 4 years, it seems like I'm moving my life. So to be in a place where I didn't have to work so hard to get myself rooted into the environment, it seemed like an easier option at the time. I was just very tired and worn out. I mean, in 3.5 years' time, we did about 600 flights in 35 countries. Oh, wow. So I was wiped, man. I was just like, I don't want to travel. I just want to stay put. I didn't think my wish would come true in the way that we've seen this year. So I'm literally staying put. But it was very comforting to have people here that I already had a deep relationship with and who understood my sound and understood who I am as an individual and what I want to do, and to go out and try to meet new friends. And that was a tough element in France. It took me about 1.5 years because I didn't speak a lick of French when I had moved there. And even now, it's very slim, like my educational language. So to come back and have that comfort, I was like, hell yeah, that's what I'm doing. As long as it's not Connecticut. I miss my family and stuff, but mentally it wasn't in a good headspace living where I was from.
Yeah, and me and you talked about this earlier. You know, the opportunities are a little bit more limited in Connecticut as opposed to somewhere like LA or a big city in general.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if that's true. It feels like that. Mm-hmm. It really does when you're there. And I think it's the feeling of that makes me want to leave it. Not necessarily that you can't do anything there. I mean, I was playing at like the Foxwoods Hard Rock Cafe bar. I was playing at a lot of venues that I loved, vineyards, and, you know, playing in Boston, New York. It's cool to have that in between where it's not far to get to these locations. I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
You know, even when you like tour down south or something, there's like a moment where you cross Virginia, I don't know, some state line like around that area where people just like start loving original music.
Yeah.
Whereas like in Connecticut, you always get the dude that's like, Freebird, man.
Yeah.
So exactly. It's like, God damn it.
I hear you. So Mike, let's kind of get back on track with the songwriting process, because that's something that's always been fascinating to me. Like I said, when I was in high school, I had an original band as well, and I remember like the whole songwriting process was a process. And you know, for people that aren't musicians, I don't think they understand exactly what singers and songwriters go through, because it is extremely tough. And I feel like there's a lot of doubts that can be in there. What's the songwriting process like for you?
It always starts in my room. I mean, you could look at, if you start trying to look at the big picture of where's this song, like I could see myself on stage playing the song and blah blah. It's like I think you need to grasp the artistic endeavor first before you grasp the business endeavor of it. I mean, writing the song can be hard, can be difficult. It can be very easy, depending on how you seed it. Yeah. So you could seed it with lyrics first, guitar first. You could seed it with, free writing, just writing 10 minutes, like not even judging yourself.
Yeah.
I think to write without judgment is always a challenge for anyone.
Yeah.
And the writer's block. But if you get yourself in the business mindset before you really envelope yourself in the artistic experience of it, something might not add up in the end. And once the song's done, that's actually when the work starts. So between mixing, engineering, mastering, get it to your PRO company, get it to the copyright, getting it to licensing companies, emailing people about it to write about it. I mean, that's when all the heavy lifting starts.
For sure.
Writing, for me, I tend to start music first, and then I kind of see how that music makes me feel on like a prosodic level with lyrics, like, okay, well, this is a minor key. I could talk about something happy, ironically, with the minor key. I could talk about something negative. I could talk about a general story over a lifespan. I could talk about a moment in time and how it felt to me, how it felt to my senses. How did it smell? How did it taste? What did you touch in the memory? All these elements when you're going in and writing, they kind of help you distinguish what it is you're doing and why. And there's a lot of things I try to write. Like the album I just released, it has a lot of like love and loss. And it's kind of like a heartbreak album from a parallel universe. It's got that pop rock mentality, but it is an alternative sound because there's so many twists and turns.
Yeah.
Like you go to the next track, it's not going to be something you were expecting based on the track you just heard. And that's what I love about it, is I don't have strings attached to me. And I have no one telling me, oh, it's that song that works, so make, 15 of those.
Yeah.
And that's what's fun about all that stuff, even though that's not what you were asking. But that's...
No, it's all good.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough to explain what's going to work for you.
Yeah.
Because there's no definitive answer to that. Anything works. Honestly, the way we judge songs is interesting. It's not... People aren't trying to be impressed. People just want you to take them somewhere,
Yeah, completely agree. I think when you did the right thing, if you experience a feeling when you sing it or play it, and if you have that feeling, then I think that you could trust your instincts that, all right, I think I'm ready to put this out and hope that other people can connect to it or connect to it in a different way.
Yeah, that's what even like open mics are for. It's like you go to see if it's even more than a feeling.
Yeah.
You see how it affects people, and then you kind of it's like sculpting, really. It all starts with sculpting. You don't limit yourself to any idea when you're first sculpting. You could start with like, hey, I love this sound. Boom, run with that. That's cool. If that sound's going to inspire you to think of some shit, then do it.
Yeah.
Don't ever tell yourself like, this isn't the way that I'm going to make this track or for me it's trying. It's forcing yourself to sit down and focus, and it takes a lot of thought to come. Sometimes I just even write the alphabet out at the top of the page, and so I can quickly jump to different letters of something I'm trying to rhyme with.
No kidding.
Or sometimes I open up my notes on my phone and I just write words, like just words I want associated with the track.
Yep.
And how you got to think like, okay, everyone has a different larynx, everyone has a different way of speaking, so different vowels and different consonants roll off your tongue differently. So a lot of people might choose words according to how they sing.
Yeah.
Which can be restricting and liberating, because it might help identify who you are as an artist. It's like, no matter what, you can't compare yourself to anyone in that regard, because it's your DNA. It's like no one's going to replicate this. They might be able to mock you, but it's never going to be you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the best part. No one can be you, and you can't be anybody else. And that's what kind of solidifies yourself as a musician and a songwriter. And it's almost like that safety net.
Yeah, totally.
So let's talk about your newest album, Mike Restart, which again you guys can find on MikeGreenMusic.com. Talk about some of the pros and cons that you experienced when it came to making that album in general.
Well, I wrote most of that album while I was living in France, and I was like, okay, here's something I can leave this job with and have something to work on and propel myself. That will give me some intrinsic value for the future, and it was something to pursue for a reason to kind of leave that life behind. And the hardest thing was piecing it together. I did all the pre-production at home on my computer, and I think there's a lot of elemental parts of the tunes in the album where you can tell this was created on a computer. Maybe you can't. I don't know. I tried to mask that element because I always bring live musicians. Well, they're not dead. I mean, they're alive.
Yeah.
And I bring them into the room. And I'm like, hey, you guys are alive. Let's make some music. And here's the song. Here's what I did. Here's the bass line I had an idea for. Here's the drum line I had an idea for. But I never let that... I invite them into my recording session because I love what they do. I love who they are. So I'm always like, here's the foundation of it. Run with this idea. Like, be you expressively. Do whatever you want. And then we can kind of sculpt from there. Maybe you did a fill. I was like, I might have been embellishing the wrong lyric or something. Let's try moving that to this location or something. All I do is offer a little bit of guidance as far as sticking with the artistic side of all of that. It's struggling to piece an album together where it's like you're doing drums here or bass there, and having people in a room makes things so much easier as far as chemistry goes. Yeah. And I think I always do the foundation first. I always get bass, guitar, and drums playing at the same time, and then I come in and overlay the vocals. So when I did all that in France, I came to LA on my break. So anytime I had a vacation, I just came to LA to work. And then I'd spend the other half of my vacation with family.
Nice.
But I'd come here and say, like, hey, we got 2 days. Like, we tracked almost that entire album in 2 days. We did about 6 of the songs in 1 day. And then, so we'd have to, I came here, we got everyone in the room. It's hard to get everyone in the room when you're not just always around each other. So the timing of all that, getting everyone in one location. Here, I'm talking in the room where I recorded everything in a garage, essentially.
Yeah.
And so we'd go in, we'd lay all the stuff down, and then the following day I would do acoustics and vocals over it. So piecing it together on a limited time where pre-production is in your best interest to make sure it's kind of like the storyboard for a movie. If, you might come across some problems the day of shooting where you're like, this image in the storyboard it doesn't work because we got a wall behind us that the camera can't spin around to get this angle that we were requiring. So what are we going to do? How can we play with this? Like, what are our resources? And sometimes the limitation of what you have at your disposal gives you a creative lift.
Yeah.
You know?
That's awesome, man. So, Mike, what was like, is there a moment that stood out to you during the whole recording process? Like any type of moment where you were like, wow, like this is starting to become what I envisioned it to become?
Yeah, I mean, when you hear the people who I have working on my album, my close friends and stuff, dude, they're talented. They're so effing talented, man.
I bet, yeah.
Like, when I see them in a room together, we're all playing, my brain's firing off, like, so much energy. And I'm just like, this is so fucking cool.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
This is, man, this is like, it's so liberating. And I haven't played in a band setting in so long. I mean, the gig that I had in France was all acoustic, unplugged. We'd be jumping on tables. People would put us in their pocket. We'd be playing in the Alps. We'd be playing in the jungle. We'd be playing in,
wow.
We stood on a platform in the middle of the water, balancing on the platform to perform for people swimming. I mean, like, you were in so many different locations, and it was more about the energy. But when you're plugged in with a band and you're exuding all these different emotions and dissonance, man, it could just take you on such a trip and get your mind firing. And then the other time that was dope was when Rashawn Ross came in.
Get out.
And laid down horn.
I didn't know that.
He's on the album. Yeah, so Rashawn's on the album, and, you know, I mean, he's Rashawn Ross. I didn't really expect him to show up.
How did that happen?
It's kind of a long story. It started, I mean, I could actually put all, like, 10 years of my life down to one moment in Boston where I was sitting on my friend's couch just smoking weed, watching the Food Network. Because that's, I mean, you're not living if you're not doing that.
That's right.
So watching the Food Network, and my friend George Woods, who is a great guitar player and another friend from Berklee.
Yeah.
He had a show at 939, just a cafe for Berklee that they made there. And it was a great sound system, cool spot. And he had a show. He's like, oh, Mike, come, I'll put you on the list +1. And the friend that I was with, I was like, hey, man, my friend George just did this. Let's go check out a show. And he was like, nah. I was like, all right, well, fine. I'll just go on my own. So I went on my own. And I'm there. I joined the show. He was opening up for someone named Marcus Eaton. And after the show, I was chilling at the bar. George and Marcus happened to be there. And I sparked a conversation with Marcus, phenomenal singer-songwriter. Check his stuff out, too. And we started talking about NAMM, which is the National Association of Music Merchants. Mm-hmm. And they hold two conferences a year, one in Nashville, one in L.A. And I'd always want to go because it's like anything in regards to music, whether it be guitar, I mean, every instrument, every pedal, like all the audio gear and everything in between, music books, sound systems. I mean, this is a huge convention center with so much inside it. And also, like, Stevie Wonder is just, like, walking around.
Yeah.
Like, anyone who's anyone, just going there to see, like, what's the new product, what's the new stuff. So I was like, oh, man, I always want to go. And Marcus was like, you know, I can get you in. I can get you a pass. And that's the first time I flew out to L.A. to go there. And I was like, oh, you know, I can live here. And this might be something. So the butterfly effect of going to that one show jump-started a huge part of my career. And when I went to NAMM, I was jamming at a booth with Marcus for it was like Bayette Guitars. I think they're located in Upper New York. Okay. Really cool guitars. They do like mandolins, 12 strings, a lot of cool shit. And we were jamming in the booth, and there was someone in the audience who was like, "Holy shit, this is awesome! Like, these two are jamming out. I'm really into it." And his name's Rob Gasper, and he works for Paramount Pictures. Okay. And so we started talking to him, and he's been a truly great friend, and he knew Rashawn at some given moment, and helped introduce me to him over time. Yeah. And so through that connection, I had sparked up a conversation with Rashawn, And eventually I like shot him some tunes, and I had only asked him to play on one.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect him to show up. I'm just like, I kind of left the door open.
Yeah.
And I had a bottle of Don Julio just like waiting for him. He could show up. And he shows up, like, I'm just kind of like looking at my computer with my engineer, and we're just working on shit. And then I look over, I'm like, huh. And then I look over again, I'm like, what the? Rashawn, what's up, man? How you doing? Like, I didn't expect him to come over. And I'm like, okay, well, he's here. And he's amazing. He's amazing. He sits down and it's just like, oh, yeah, this. And then just like just it comes out of him like water flowing down a stream. It was so amazing to just see his brain spark up and how efficient he was, and how humble. I mean, even to a point where it's like, you know, we haven't spent a lot of time, but he corrected me in one spot. I was like, oh yeah, it's a minor in this part. He's like, oh, you mean a minor 7 flat 5? And then when I played that, I was like, oh yeah, it's that. You know, and I was like, yeah, it's a minor 7 flat 5. But he knew, and he's open to conversation and ideas, and so you know, when he was done recording one of the songs, which was for Addictive, my song Addictive.
Okay.
I was like, hey, while you're here, check out these other songs. And I played him one, and he was like, oh, you know, there's not a lot of room sonically for me to put anything down on this. And I was like, yeah, you're right. It'd be too much, you know, for the listener. And so I kept playing him some other stuff. And this is like, he had already packed up his trumpet and his stuff, and he brought all the tools. It was really cool.
That's awesome.
Like the mutes, I don't know. He brought like a flugelhorn. He brought different horn. Yeah, it was like, it was watching magic, man. It was really cool. And so he had zipped all that stuff up, and then I played Break Free for him.
Yeah. Great song.
He puts the bag down and he unzips it again, takes everything back out, and it's like, I got to play on this. And I'm like, what? And then he ended up playing on another one. So I got him on 3 songs on the album.
That's amazing.
That was definitely a high point where you're just like, you know, I've always been influenced by Dave Matthews Band,
of course.
and then going into high school and college, like with Lettuce and
Soul Live and all them.
Soul Roy Hargrove, or like, I mean, I was just enveloped in it, man. I was just like, I loved all the sounds and the textures and the calmness and the emotions, and so I feel like we shared a similar background of taste. And to have him be here was, you know, a tip of the hat nod from someone who you deeply respect, which is a moment of reflectivity for yourself to say, like, you know, how do we define success? Is it because I don't have 1,000 people staring at me while I like try to sing a song? I'm just like, like on stage, we're all facing one direction at each other, and it kind of could be awkward sometimes. It's moments like that, man, where it's like being in the room with the people creating, dude, such a huge high.
I can only imagine.
You know, my favorite moments is like right when you're done creating the song for the first time, where you're just like, oh shit, this is fire. Like I'm feeling, you know, you might hate it literally 3 hours later. You might be like, this was dumb. Why was I thinking this? But when something like that's happening, it kind of gives you a little bit more reassurance. Like, all right, you know what? I'm clearly on the right path because look what just happened.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And someone believes in you who you've always respected. So, yeah, huge high, and that was really cool.
Yeah, man, thanks for sharing. That's an amazing story. For those of you that don't know who Rashawn Ross is, he's a touring musician for the Dave Matthews Band right now. And if you don't know who Dave Matthews Band is, you probably don't know much about music because they've been around
living under a rock
for a long time. So they're pretty legendary. So Mike, so now you got the album out, right? And like the whole quarantine's going on. How and where do you find inspiration to kind of just keep your creative drive as a songwriter and musician?
It doesn't go anywhere. It's just like when you choose to tap into those frequencies, they're always surrounding you. I kind of pull them down like an apple from a tree.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I'm not hungry. I don't want the apple. And sometimes I'm like, you know what, I'm hungry, and I try to tap into those frequencies, and And sometimes it takes, again, a lot of reflectivity. I think I said this earlier, but, you know, we're in a very fast-paced environment. Go, go, go.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a silver lining to having this time off to reflect, to listen to everybody, to take it in, to absorb.
For sure.
I mean, without that sense of living, what are you going to sing about?
Yeah.
You know, so you have to work at it. The grass is always greener on the other side, but both sides need water. You know, It doesn't matter where you are. You got to water that. You got to water your mind.
Yeah.
And you can put yourself in I mean, everything plays an effect now, balance, whether it be diet, activities. I mean, I used to hike a lot and all the parks are closed. And that was a good way to release like any frustration or something that you can come back, get all that emotion out and just think. So I think a lot of people have a misconception that music's born out of turmoil when really, you know, it's evoked for me out of peace of mind. So I try to keep myself at peace in some sense, one way or the other, as best as I can. And if I can't, I'm probably not writing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to balance it, and I try not to compare, and I try not to think just because I'm not making it as quickly as some other people doesn't make it any less legitimate, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's tough. I mean, performing and writing, all of it's a volatile career.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, we're faced with a lot of decisions to have to subsidize ourselves. Like I always explain it to people as like, it's a leaky roof. You got to put out buckets. There's no other way to do it, you know? I mean, and if you do it another way, independent artists, you know, might otherwise like exhaust their resources waiting around for a ruptured pipe. It's like, that's a rarity.
Yeah.
To just wait around for this like fountain of gold that's going to shoot out success for you. It's like, you can't twiddle your thumbs in any sense. You always got to be chiseling away at something, at a bigger picture. And, just, dude, I don't know. I try to, I don't have all the answers. I never will. And some days it's really difficult. Some days I'm just like, man, why would I even bother? Like, it's tough to write in a scenario where your last successes aren't panning out the way you would have liked them to.
Yep.
So you gotta really put that behind and say like, all right, well, you know what? Like I said, you win or you learn.
Exactly.
So take that as a moment of learning, approach it differently, see what works, and be open to change, be open to adaptation. And that's the toughest part, especially like, I'm not a tech savvy dude. I'm a very analog man. Like, I'd rather be on a stage in front of people executing this stuff in real time. And in a world where, you know, a lot of people can't perform for you if the power goes out, I feel that I still have a sense of belonging somewhere in the picture where it's like, you know, when the power goes out, I can still make sure you have a good time.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great way to look at it. I like that. All right, Mike, last two questions that I always like to end the show with for people that are listening that, you know, might have aspirations to do something. It could be in music. It could be in another area of their life. Now, just hearing your story, you can see that there's been some risks that you've had to take. You know, you've gone to different parts of the country. What's the best tip you can give someone that might be thinking about taking a risk in their life to do something that they love?
Take it.
Yeah.
Really, it's so simple. Just take it. What's the worst that happens? It sucks and you leave. I mean, if you're taking something where it backs you in a corner, whether it be financially or mentally or something, then think about it. How would you react to that situation? And if you don't know, then take it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to find out. And you're going to find out real quick if you're going to like it or not. And, you know, again, that one day that I got off the couch and just went to my friend's show, I mean, the butterfly effect of all your decisions, man, it's trippy, dude.
Yeah, especially when you look back at it now. I mean, look at where that
when
went
you look back, yeah, it's trippy, man. Like, I don't, as much as there are moments where I might not be proud of myself, I don't regret anything that's happened, and it's a very long, arduous road, but all you can ever do is throw yourself out in the universe. That's it. I'm proud to have released music that I dreamt up and I made in a garage with friends that I deeply respect. I mean, there's a chemistry to everything.
Yeah.
It's all about cool people doing cool shit. That's what life's all about. And right now we're in a moment where there's a musical revolution happening around us. There's a revolution in every regard happening around us. So if you're kind of sitting home and lamenting things, that's not the right way to build intrinsic value for yourself, for your career. Again, I would say the best advice is don't beat yourself up. Just let the world beat yourself up for you.
I like that. It's true.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, last question. Any tips or advice that you'd give a listener right now on how they can stay driven and keep a positive mindset? Just like the way you still have your creative drive, you don't give up. What would you tell them right now to maintain some kind of drive and keep a positive mindset?
You could start by, this sounds like something I would never do, like the past self, but I would start by making a checklist.
Okay.
I mean, 20-year-old me would be like, well, it's stupid. Checklist. What are you talking about? Smoke some weed, man. Like, that's fun. It's like, whatever you got to do to be happy, like, right, even if it's like on a paper, just write out, like, what are things that make you happy? What are you not doing? I've had a lot of trials in my life so far, physically, mentally,
yeah.
A lot of deaths growing up. Even when I was a young kid, when I was like 13, 14, like my mom died and I revived her with my father. She always had these respiratory illnesses and stuff.
No kidding.
And I had a lot of grandparents, and I even had a friend in middle school pass away. So at a young age, I had a different sense of empathy and a bigger picture of what matters versus what doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I think you need to just, what do you have to lose? There's even one, that's a tough thing to witness as a kid.
For sure.
And I also was like a heavier set kid too. Like there was a moment in my life where I weighed like, I don't know, like 250 pounds, maybe like 252. It was like, and I recognized, I saw a picture one day and I was just like, you know what? I got to change my life. This is not good, not healthy. I was in a bad mindset.
Yep.
And it's tough. It's tough, but you got to take everything in small chunks and do one thing at a time. If you try to do too much at once, you're going to burn yourself out. If you try to, that's a good question. It really is a good question. I don't know. I don't know because it's subjective for each individual. Everyone's going through something different right now.
Of course.
And always everyone's going through something different. So I think don't dismiss your successes and don't dismiss what's great about you.
Yeah.
You can spend all your time lamenting on your struggles and thinking like, these are my obstacles, these are my setbacks. How the hell can I overcome them? You can. It's very difficult, but if you're willing to chip away one thing at a time, I think you will get there. And I think it's important to remember those steps and remember how far you've come from where you were. But there's no better time than now. There's never a better time than now. It's never too late to be who you might have been, Yeah,
I like that, man. That's awesome advice. And Mike, to be honest, there's the one thing that I definitely took out of this, and you kind of said it a few times, and it's stuck in my head is, no matter what you're going through, you're either going to win or you're going to learn from it. And I like the fact that you said, be open to change. Like those two things really stuck out for me that you said, because to be honest, I'm 32 years old. Not a lot of people have said that to me. It's either win or lose, right? But the way your mindset looks at it, I think is such a much more positive mindset to look at it from. You win from it or you learn from it. Don't look at it as a loss.
Yeah. And again, it's like, do whatever you need to do to make you happy. Like when you write down that paper, if it says watching The Simpsons every day makes you happy, then watch The Simpsons every day.
Yep.
I mean, that show, I think the reason I'm saying that is because I've been watching The Simpsons every day. And man, honestly, there's always a life lesson. It's a very intellectual show.
Yeah.
Meant for everyone. It's such a broad spectrum. And there's nothing The Simpsons can't teach you. That's my last bit of advice.
I dig it, man. I dig it. Awesome. Well, Mike, hey, thanks, bro. I really appreciate you being on the show. Where could they find you on Instagram?
Instagram, my tag is I like Mike Green, all one word.
Perfect. And the website?
Yeah, website, MikeGreenMusic.com, and there's kind of like you could get the Apple or YouTube, you could see what's going on there.
Perfect,
but I just released a music video called How to Love that people need to check out. I released it back in January, and as the months have gone on, it's become more and more relevant to what's happening. So definitely something to check out.
For sure, man.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me. I love you, man, and it's good to see you. Good to talk to you.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for the time. Everybody go listen to the album Restart. Again, it's MikeGreenMusic.com. Mike, thank you, brother, and good luck with the rest of quarantine. Hopefully you'll be out there playing some shows soon enough.
Yes, sir. I hope, man.